Beaumont's Travel Journal, May 7th, 1876. Torinobu and I set out at the crack of dawn this morning, heading for Flam's Folly, hoping to catch this mysterious man in black, the Akumanojin, as Torinobu calls him. It was a short travel. On the way, we came across a baptism by fire. Behind a little hill runs an oily stream of water. A gathering of hunger and soul-worn individuals have collected around a preacher. Holding his Bible high, he thunders the sin of man, and with the flick of his wrist ignites an inferno. There's no time to save any of the townsfolk. We'll have a hard enough time saving ourselves. It was only later we realised that that baptism by fire was the man in black, wreaking his corruption across the land. Had we realised at the time, then perhaps we could have caught him, but we were too busy fleeing the fire, which I must admit scorched my clothes quite horribly. We arrived at Flam's Folly, and of course, the man in black was gone. Torinobu was most aggrieved that the preacher had already moved on. When we realised what we had seen on the road, he almost became enraged. I don't think we'll be visiting Flam's Folly for a while. It seems this heretical preacher's presence in the place has left it corrupted and twisted. We discussed what our next course of action was. I told Torinobu about the cantankerous old miner in Wilshin's lodge, the one who interrupted my card game with Henry Macmillan. I don't know if it will lead to anything, but that old man seemed sure there was evil going on down south. Perhaps that will lead us towards this Akumanuji chap Torinobu so desperately seeks. When I told him of the tales of living dead spilling forth from the tombs down south and wreaking havoc across the countryside, well, the samurai's honour kicked in, and he insisted we travel down there and rid the land of their evil. Well, I suppose I've really got myself into it now. In the morning, we set out for the tombs. Travel Journal of Beaumont Sinclair, May 11th, 1876. We spent 3 days travelling from Flam's Folly down to the tombs. On the first day we came across a storm. Heavy rains had raised the waters higher than normal, and the entire area was flooded. We found a floating body, a corpse bloated and floating along the river. The body appeared to be quite old, and from where we were, there was no way to tell the cause of death. We made the decision to pull the body ashore. We found as we pulled the body up, it came alive and began to attack. Fortunately, Torinobu was able to kill the foul thing, but not before it took a chunk out of his arm. I'd wager these are the creatures coming forth from the tombs. On our second day of travel, we came across a stampede. Some ranchers were bringing their cattle across the plains towards their homestead. As they began to pass by, an unearthly howl erupted from nearby. The cattle began to stampede. The monstrous howling drew nearer. The experience left us both quite shocked, but we moved on, determined to reach the tombs, regardless of what Brimstone County throws in our way. As we got nearer to the tombs, we found a dark stone boulder. I'd heard rumours from a fellow traveller about a large dark stone boulder inside a cave. We investigated and found a boulder about 7 feet tall. This thing could make us rich. Dark stone fetches a pretty penny on the markets. Of course, it was far too heavy for us to move, but we did have a bash at chipping off some fragments. That's the thing about Darkstone though, you always run the risk of corruption and mutation. We managed to get ourselves a couple of fragments of the Darkstone. Finally, nearing the southern edge of the county, the tombs came into sight. It was a rough journey travelling through the mountains, and it took us longer than I'd hoped. But we're here now, and I suppose that means it's time to get to work. Torinobu and Beaumont arrive at the tombs, intent on undertaking their first adventure into the mines around Brimstone County. Well, that chap said the undead were coming out of this place, so I guess this is where we're going, eh?
Yes, let us go in and defeat these evil creatures. We will bring peace back to this county, one mine at a time.
Beaumont steps forward carrying the lantern, but stops outside of the entrance. Well, I suppose this is it. Let's get to it, old chap, he says nervously. Torinobu comes up beside him, beginning to take the lead. He looks back to see Beaumont scavenging the area, looking for anything useful. But alas, he turns up nothing. Well, doesn't look like there's anything useful out here. I guess it's time for us to go in. Beumont says, and continues on, crossing the threshold of the mine. Inside the tombs, Beumont finds a switch curve leading off around the corner into the dark. The rail tracks set into the dusty floor here split off in two directions, and there is a switch box to change the path. Torinobu takes an interest in the switch box, and with a mighty pull of the lever, he hears the rails ahead creak and groan. Something has changed. As the two continue to explore the switch curve, Beumont notices the room is filled with broken trinkets and rusty scraps. There may be something useful under all this, if he can find it. Beumont gets lucky searching through the detritus and finds a small necklace that could be worth something back in town. Torinobu, meanwhile, searching through the broken rocks and splintered beams of the rail switch, comes across a crack in space, shimmering and shining across the room. A crack has torn in the fabric of space and time. Through it, he gazes into infinity. The swirling mesmer of colours torments Torinobu's mind, and he feels his sanity slipping away. Every moment he is exposed to this horrific sight of the infinite. As if that weren't bad enough, the groans and moans of undead resonate through the chamber. Both men look up to see a handful of hungry dead shambling towards them. Nearby, piled up corpses writhe, with the still living dead struggling out from under each other. Beumont moves up close and snaps off a shot from his revolver. However, the rotting corpse barely seems to notice anything as the bullet punches clean through its ribs and comes out of its back. It keeps walking. Torinobu, seeing the danger, runs forward, coming to Beaumont's side. His sword is in his hand in a flash, and he swings the blade. In one clean motion, he severs the head of one of the walking corpses, and it tumbles to the ground, dead once more. Another of the shambling ghouls moves towards Beumont, biting and gnashing at him with his claws. Teeth. Beumont manages to avoid its attacks, just. The gambler slips to the side and makes his way past the shambling ghouls. The hungry dead, slow and stupid, fail to catch him, and Beumont fires off another shot. This time pulverizing one of the corpse piles near the exit, and leaving any would-be shambling abominations that might emerge from it dead on the ground. Torinobu, meanwhile, continues to use his sword. Graceful and elegant, he leaves two more of the creatures on the ground in piles of congealed blood. However, despite his prowess with his blade, Torinobu's mind is no match for the shimmering portal constantly assailing him. With its horrific view into the infinite, and his mind is overcome, Torinobu collapses to the floor, jabbering and gibbering as he struggles to regain his sanity. Beumont, meanwhile, similarly affected by the abyss overhead, struggles against the hungry dead approaching him, still trying to bite him, still trying to claw him. He managed to shove the creature away, but it's not enough. Amidst the fear of the rotting ghoul trying to bite him, and the sound of the infinite coming from above, he collapses, struggling to hold on to his sanity. Meanwhile, Torinobu comes to his senses and struggles back to his feet. Seeing Beumont on the ground, surrounded by the creatures, he charges forward, his blade flashing once again. And leaving Beaumont's attacker on the ground as a chopped pile of decayed meat. The remaining dead shamble towards him. Torinobu, quick and agile, easily avoids its strikes, then comes up behind the creature and with a flick of a wrist, he eviscerates both the hungry dead and the pile of corpses nearby. Beumont struggles back to his feet, damaged and shaken by his gaze into the infinite abyss. He finds himself mistrusting of others, not sure whether Torinobu is there to help him or to hinder him. Either way, he decides he is going to be wary of all he meets from now on. Torinobu continues on, further into the mine, hoping that they have passed the worst of it. He comes across a rail split, leading off in several different directions deeper into the mine. A broken and twisted mess that looks like it may once have been human rests here. The sight is not pretty, and the smell is worse, as Torinobu comes across some mangled remains. He steels himself against the horrifying sight, gritting his teeth and preparing to move on. Beumont catches up, and both men move into the rail split, seeing yet more of the hungry dead shambling through the darkness, and more of the corpse piles from which they seem to endlessly emerge. Beumont fires his pistol, putting down two of the ghouls, while Torinobu charges forward, and again, with a slice of his sword, he turns one of the corpse piles into a mass of chopped flesh, and one of the hungry dead lay at his feet, its head cut clean from its body. As the last of the hungry dead shambles towards Beumont, he turns on it and opens fire. Putting it down quickly with the use of his cheater's holdout pistol. Then, Beumont heads off, deeper into the mine. He finds himself in a blasted cavern. This looks to be the scene of a dark stone mining accident. Blast marks scorch the walls, support beams are cracked and splintered, and the old minecart rails here are broken and twisted. Beumont hopes to find something buried in the rubble, but his luck doesn't pay off, and he finds nothing. Beumont moves deeper into the blasted cavern and finds the passage is flooded with knee-deep murky water. Meanwhile, Torinobu continues down another path, finding himself in a mining room. A mining room filled with a stolen arsenal. The room is stockpiled with weapons and munitions, as well as maps of the nearby town with notes about a plan to attack. Torinobu, fearing some unpleasant bandits must have been using this place as a staging ground before the hungry dead made their appearance, decides the stolen arsenal, overrun by the hungry dead, is no longer a threat, and so searches for anything of value. He finds some darkstone and a few handfuls of cash. Both men find the mines filled with yet more corpse piles and hungry dead. They feel they must be getting close to clearing out the last of these ghouls by now, but with the horrific moaning and groaning of the shambling hordes, they fear they may never leave this place alive. Beumont fires his pistol. The hungry dead move towards Beumont, crossing the murky waters of the blasted cavern. Meanwhile, Torinobu runs into the midst of the hungry dead. His sword flashes, but he fails to put down any of the undead abominations as his nerves begin to shake. Overwhelmed by fear once again, the undead surrounding him, Torinobu feels his mind slip, and he fails to comprehend anything else going on around him. Beumont, despite the paranoia at the back of his mind, he hears Torinobu's deranged ravings and begins making his way towards him, hoping to help the samurai. He sees even more of the hungry dead, a great horde of them, shambling towards him, those from the blasted cavern still following after him. He finds himself surrounded, and quickly attempts to make his way towards Torinobu, hoping to save him. He unloads his pistol into one of the hungry dead. And it collapses into the dust. However, as Beumont gets closer to Torinobu, he realizes more and more corpses keep rising from these piles, and there is no chance he is going to be able to put them all down. He grabs Torinobu, pulling him by the arm as the deranged samurai shouts and screams in his own language. Beumont manages to pull him away from the undead horde and make it past them to safety, escaping out of the mine and fleeing back into the countryside. Come on, you damn heathen. This was a bloody ghastly idea. We need to get out of here.
何はどこ誰ですか
Keep quiet, you bloody fool. You got us into this. I'm going to get us out. Lestina's not far from here. A day or two's ride at most. May 12th to May 15th, 1876. The samurai's plan to clean out those hungry dead was a fool's errand. I knew it would be. We were completely underprepared, but the fool insisted. I'm going to get him to Lestina, and then I'm washing my hands of him. I can't trust his judgment, and I get this nagging feeling he's going to betray me. Perhaps it's those marauding ghouls in the mine playing on my fears, but I just don't trust him. In any case, we made our way down through the mountains today, and with the samurai's injuries, it was slow going. As we rode back toward the trail, a great hurricane blew through the area, forcing us to take shelter for the night. The next morning, the weather was fine. Wouldn't have even believed there was a hurricane yesterday. I had to tie that Torinobu to his saddle, with his injuries getting worse. I'm not sure he's going to make it. We made good time despite it all, and reached Lestina, only to find that hurricane had left half their town in ruins. Their docks office had been reduced to splintered timbers, and their dock was missing, presumed dead. Lady Luck never turns her back for long, though. Lestina is a rail town, and tomorrow morning the train should be coming through on its way to Sarapin. I'll take the samurai there, and that's where we will part ways. I visited the local church this morning before the train arrived, and the local preacher really put my mind at ease. Those damned ghouls in the tombs really had me shaken. I feel much better now, and honestly, I feel bloody awful the way I've treated Torinobu the last few days. We caught the train before noon, and headed through the canyon bottleneck, a dangerous place for travellers, but thankfully it's much safer when travelling by rail. The locomotive is just about to pull into Sarapin station. Hopefully it's not too late for poor Torinobu. Beumont drags Torinobu into the docks office at Sarapin. The town doctor looks up from a book he is reading. Dear God, what happened to him? We were attacked by those damned hungry dead on the south edge of this county. You went into the tombs, you damn fools? He's been through the ringer, this fella has, but I'll have him fixed up in no time. Come back this evening, and we can settle up. Beumont leaves Torinobu in the capable hands of the Sarapin dock, and heads to the general store, where he stocks up on whiskey and bandages, planning to tend to his own minor wounds. As he is leaving, he notices a few sticks of dynamite on sale, along with some mining tools. He finds himself fantasizing about revenge on those hungry dead abominations, and decides to buy all the dynamite he can carry. After leaving the store, Beumont heads over to the hotel and books 2 rooms, thinking it would be best for Torinobu to recover here than brave the dangers of the local campsite. He returns to the docks office to find Torinobu looking in much better shape, though still woozy and a little delirious. He'll be fine in a day or two, the doc says. Thank you. I was worried he wouldn't make it. Well, lucky for you, I've had a lot of experience with these kind of wounds lately. Now there's something I have to discuss with you. Payment for services rendered, of course. Nah, it ain't that exactly. You can call this paid in full if you're willing to help me with something. You have my curiosity piqued, good doctor. I heard a nasty rumor around town. One of the local farmhands has gone missing out near the Copper Hill Canyons. Being the two of you are the heroic types, perhaps you could go look for him. Well, sir, I think given present circumstances, then,
We will find this farmhand.
Torinobu's voice suddenly cuts in.
You have saved my life, Dr. Sama. On my honor, we shall travel to Copper Hill as soon as I have healed.
Bloody hell, Beumont mutters.
I also must ask you, Dr. Sama. I am looking for a man my people call the Akuma Nojin. He has white hair and dresses like one of your Christian preachers. I followed him to the town of Framsfori, but he was gone. Have you or the good people of Sarapin heard about this traveling preacher of corruption?
Funny you should say that, son. I heard a man like that was seen a little ways north in the town of Masthead. Folks around here have been calling him the heretic preacher. Maybe you can pick up his trail there.
Arigato, Dr. Sama. Our path is clear, Beumont-san. We will travel through the Copper Hill Canyons and find these farmhands. Then on to Masthead and Akuma Nojin.
Wonderful.